Mary Spencer has been a culinary instructor for over 20 years. Her professional cooking career began when she donated charitable auction dinners and cooking classes to the downtown Detroit YMCA and Northville Parks and Recreation. These dinners were a tremendous success and encouraged Mary to become a professional culinary instructor. By way of background, Mary learned to cook from attending some 200 cooking seminars from acclaimed chefs, including Jacques Pepin, Milos Chikla, and Nicholas Malgiri, and she has taught cooking classes at a number of Detroit Metro cooking equipment stores, including Kitchen Glamour, Kitchen Witch, Scotty's Kitchen, and ABC Warehouse. She is presently the owner of Taste, a Cook's Place LLC, which is a cooking school and a Cook's Resource Center situated in Plymouth, Michigan. Mary has also conducted numerous classes for corporations, service organizations, and individuals. She has been a guest lecturer at the U of M Sociology Department and Michigan State University. Her class repertoire includes over 1,000 class-tested cooking presentations covering a wide range of topics. Her personal library holds over 5,500 cookbooks. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you, Denise. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you. Welcome to my kitchen. And today we're going to be talking about herbs, fresh herbs, one of my absolute favorite topics because when I started cooking, there were not a lot of fresh herbs available in the markets. I mean, you got to, maybe parsley was there and not even Italian parsley, but just curly parsley. So, as I cooked and I was getting really into it, they started, you were able to buy basil and then you were able to buy cilantro. Cilantro wasn't even really available for a long time. And then, as time went on, you got to, there now you can find tarragon and you can find, a lot of different herbs that, you don't really see a lot or you didn't see a lot in markets earlier. I get mad when I go to the market now and I don't find chervil, which is really weird because I mean that's a real specialized herb. But I just love cooking with fresh because I think when dried is good, but I don't think the flavor on a lot of dried herbs is really true to what the fresh herb can bring a dish. So if you take dried basil and then you put it right next to fresh, there is really no comparison. I mean, to me, fresh basil is summer. It's spring, it's summer. And when I get dried basil, I use it. I use it still. I use it like when in spaghetti sauces and things like that. But or when I don't have fresh available. But I just love fresh. So we're gonna cook with some fresh herbs today, and we're gonna make two recipes. We're gonna do a lentil salad with fresh herbs, and we're gonna do some a cod with a fresh herb sauce. And really easy, two really easy recipes, but I think they really showcase the herbs really well. I love lentil salads. That's one of my favorites because I think the lentils, they're kind of bland in and of themselves, but they pick up the flavors of the herbs really, really well. And I think that when you do and you can use really any herbs you want. I mean, you go to the grocery store, look in your herb garden, what you've got growing now in the summer or whatever. There's so much of it out there. Please, if you have questions, ask, put them in the chat or whatever. Denise will stop me. I know a lot of people have questions about storing herbs or preserving herbs or things like that, but we'll touch base with all of those. But I want to get started with my lentil salad first. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little vinaigrette for the salad, kind of start a vinaigrette. And what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to kind of get everything ready before I saute, because when I saute all these ingredients, it's going to be very, very quick. I have some chopped shallots here. These are very finely chopped shallots. I like shallots in a dressing because they're a little more mild. They're not so strong like an onion. I have some garlic here, and I kind of consider garlic an herb because it adds flavor to things. And what I'm going to do with the garlic, I'm not going to mince it, but what I'm going to do with it is I'm going to slice it. So I'm just going to take it and slice it really finely. So if you take garlic and you use it sliced like this instead of minced really finely, the more that you chop garlic, the finer you chop it, the stronger it gets. So a lot of times, if you want just that hint of garlic, it's a good idea just to kind of slice it. Sometimes people will just throw it whole in a dish and you'll get essence of garlic without the real strong, the heat that's involved with it as well. I have shallots, I have garlic, I have some pine nuts here, just some, I know they cost a fortune, but I use them. If I don't use all of them right away, I throw them in my freezer so that they stay really well in the freezer. I know they're pricey, but and you can find them pretty much anywhere now. You can find them at Myers, you can find them different places. So I have my pine nuts, I have some shallots and my garlic. I'm going to take some lemon and I'm going to zest the lemon. So I have a zester, and I want to zest it because I want to make sure that when I am ready for it, this is going to come right, going to be ready for me to add to my pan. The zesting, a lemon, it's important just to get the yellow. Don't get the white underneath it. So when I use a microplane grater, I just go once or twice over the top, once or twice, just like this. And then, I do the whole thing. A recipe may tell you a tablespoon, but I really think that it's kind of like adding herbs to something. If you add the zest of a lemon to a dish, you're going to get more lemony flavor. It's the oils in the lemon that you're adding, really, by adding the zest. And I just think it's a really, really great thing. These microplanes are a really good piece of equipment. They are invaluable to do this kind of project, or to to do like a what was I going to say? Like um, Parmesan cheese. It will grate chocolate. It will grate so many wonderful things. So if you, they're $10, I mean you can't beat that, and they really help you out a lot in the kitchen. I'm going to use some lemon juice. So once we are ready, I'm going to use some lemon juice. I am going to use some red pepper flakes. These are just crushed red pepper flakes that you would add to a pasta sauce or to a sauce of some sort. I like a little bit of heat because I think the lentils can be kind of bland, and when you add a little bit of heat, you get more flavor from them. So I am going to get my burner nice and hot. I may be making a little noise. I have to turn the vent on too. I'm just going to use a little bit of olive oil for this. All right, and basically what I'm going to start with is get my pan nice and hot first. Real good rule of thumb when you're sauteing anything, and when I do the fish, you'll see as well. But typically, when you're sauteing anything, you want to make sure that you get your pan hot first. Don't add things to a cold pan; things will start to stick. Even if it's a non-stick pan, it's a good idea just to to get them, to get the pan nice and hot, and then add that when you're ready to go. All right. I am going to add a little bit of olive oil to my pan. Kind of a middle of the road olive oil, nothing terribly expensive. I am going to add my shallots and my garlic to this. All right. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to let those saute a bit. All right. I like nice olive oil. And I do use some, really nice olive oils, real flavorful olive oils for sauteing. The problem with olive oil is that heat degrades the flavor of olive oil. So when you add something really, 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 really flavorful, you add it to the pan, you get it hot, and you're gonna end up losing some of that flavor of the oil because the heat will just kind of burn it away. So what I like to do is when I'm, either if I'm going to use a really, really nice oil, I will, at the end of the dish, I will drizzle a little bit more at the very end of cooking. That way I bring that flavor back, and then I'm not wasting my money on a really, really good olive oil that, kind of the flavor starts to dissipate a bit. Okay. So just a good idea. I'm getting this nice, and I'm just going to get this nice and hot and nice and toasted. And we're going to use a few different herbs. I'm kind of using what I could find in the store. I am going to be using some basil for this, some mint, some parsley, some cilantro. You could use really any herb you want to use in this. If you want to use a little bit of sage, go for it. And sage is a real strong herb. It's kind of that herb that you associate with Thanksgiving dressings, like turkey stuffing. So I would use tarragon as a phenomenal herb that is really good in a lentil salad. It's a little harder to find, and it's that herb that kind of tastes like licorice, a little licoricey. But I love it. It's a very French herb. And in a lentil salad, it's a real traditional thing to do with in a lentil salad. So, but if you can find that, go for it. You can do some, let's see, what else could you do? You could do, any herb that you find, some fresh thyme. You can do a little bit of rosemary, not a lot. Rosemary is one of those herbs, if you overdo it, it's like walking through a pine forest, you know what I mean? And it's just going to be really, really, really strong. So you want to really be careful with stuff like that because, don't be too heavy handed. When you're using fresh herbs, I feel that the flavor is accentuated because the herb is so different in taste than a dried herb. And I have a real hard time using a lot of the dried herbs. Like for me, dried rosemary is like the pine needles that you find on your carpet half a year after you've removed your Christmas tree. They just get so so stiff and so hard. And even when you put them in a marinade or something, the dried ones, you have a hard time kind of bringing them back to life. You can grow it. I mean, honestly, guys, I have a rosemary plant that I'm terribly ashamed of, but I used it all winter long and now it just kind of dried up on me. So I'm going to start again. I just buy another one in the spring and then I keep it going on my patio. And then when it is time to, when it time to bring it in, I bring it in the house. And I don't do well growing things. So, and I think I've told you guys that before. But some herbs do really well in pots. Some don't do so well. Basil does really, really well in a pot. Fresh thyme does really well. Rosemary does beautifully. There's some herbs that do better in the ground. Sage does real well in the ground. Does well in a pot too. But sage will come back year after year, and you'll get big, beautiful bushes of it, and it's just gorgeous. So those are some fun herbs to kind of consider using. I'm getting if you guys can see that, I'm just getting my oil and my shallots nice and sauteed so that they're nice and soft, kind of letting that garlic get a little bit of color on it. I'm going to add my pine nuts to this now. And, I'm not putting a lot of them in. I think pine nuts are one of those things that, you don't need an awful lot. Pine nuts actually come from a pine cone. Down in New Mexico, they grow, and they come from like a pine cone, and you peel them off, and so that's why one of the reasons they're really expensive. They're not easy to harvest, so they're a little bit pricey. But I buy it, I keep it in my freezer when I need it. I may go through a bag of it every year or whatever, and it lasts pretty good in the freezer. So I'm really not worried about it once I buy it and I put it away. I'm going to throw in my lemon zest at this point. Let's get that nice and flavoring my. Basically, what this is kind of my dressing base for my lentil salad. I'm going to take my my lemon. I'm going to cut that in half, and we are going to I'm going to remove some of those seeds because I don't do that, and then I end up picking the seeds out of my dish, and don't like to do that, guys. So we're going to pick a little bit out of there. Okay, well, kind of squeeze some of that lemon juice in here at this point. You're going to hear it sizzle a little bit. And this will be my acid for my dressing for my lentil salad. All right. Again, fresh lemon juice to me is the only way to go. Honestly, guys, I really feel like fresh lemon juice. If you don't have fresh, you can. I do keep one of those bottles, the little plastic bottles in my refrigerator just in case. But if I buy lemons and I buy too many, they look like they're going to go bad or something. I will juice them and I will freeze the juice in little ice cube trays. So I always have some, and it's really, really, it's a nice thing to have on hand. I just think the flavor is so much better. I'm going to throw in some of this red pepper flakes, just a little bit, so that I have just a tiny amount of heat. All right. And this little mixture here is pretty much almost ready to go. All right. And then
Mary,
I just kind of want that I'm gonna let those pine nuts brown just a little bit more, and then we'll take it off the heat. You got a question, Denise?
Yep. They want to know if they can.
I can't hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
I'm not hearing you.
Huh.
No. Oh no.
Okay. I don't know. Because I'm not muted.
Yeah, I don't know why I can't hear you. Make sure everything's on my end.
Yeah, here too, because I can hear myself echoing out in the front of the library.
I can't hear.
Huh. Oh, let's see.
I'm not hearing anything.
Huh. What does this say? I don't know. I don't know why it's not working. Oh no.
Sorry, no, I'm not hearing you, Denise.
Darn. Okay.
Oh my gosh. I don't know why it's doing that. I have everything is not.
Huh.
Yeah, I'm not
No?
on mute.
No.
No, I'm not on mute at all.
Microphone.
I've checked my volume on my
Figures.
computer. It's all up.
Still only. Darn it. I don't know.
No.
Nothing?
I
Nothing
don't know
still?
why it's doing this.
Okay, they can hear me.
Oh my gosh. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Maybe
We'll
you
try to
can,
figure it out.
type it in the chat. I can read it or something. Let's just see if
Someone
we can
wants
do
to know
that.
what
Okay,
kind of-
I don't know why it's doing that. All right, I'm gonna keep going. If we figure it out, guys, we'll
Okay.
figure it out. Okay. I don't know these computers, guys. I don't know. They confound me sometimes. So what I'm gonna do is now this is so beautifully. Everything is nice and brown. I'm gonna remove this from my pan because if I leave it in the pan, it's gonna continue to cook. Okay. So I'm gonna remove it from the pan, and I'm done with that. And we'll turn the burner off. I don't know why it's doing that. My little microphone is like, it's glowing green and it keeps fluctuating. I don't know if that has anything to do with it or not. Yeah, I don't know. It's like the green keeps going up and down on it, but it's on. It's not off. It's not muted. Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, so I am going to take my herbs. I have my beautiful mint. I have some parsley, a little bit of parsley. No, not parsley. Yeah, a little bit of parsley, and I have some basil here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I've got my beautiful basil here, and any leafy herb. Really easy way to chop it up is to lay it on one on top of the other, all the leaves, and I'm going to kind of add the mint to this. And that will kind of make it easier for me to chop it up. And then what I'm going to do is kind of layer it and roll it. So now I have a nice little roll, and we're going to chop this up, which is called a chiffonade cut. And what I'm going to get is these little stringy pieces of herb now. Okay, kind of like spaghetti almost. All right. So and then I'm going to take the rest of I'm going to take my parsley, and we're going to chop that up a bit. So what do I have here at this moment? I have some basil. I have some mint. And people think, oh, mint in a salad? I don't know. Don't put a lot. Again, it's one of those herbs that can overpower things. But put enough in there that you'll be able to, to taste it. But, to give it that kind of hint of mintiness, okay? Which is really nice. I'm going to add all my herbs to my dressing here. All right. And then I'm going to take some cilantro. I absolutely love cilantro. It's it kind of makes Southwest food taste Southwest, Mexican food kind of. Cilantro is a funny herb because first of all, it is the most widely used herb in the world. The only countries that really don't use cilantro a lot is the United States, Canada, Europe, and everywhere else in the world. Cilantro is really found everywhere. Middle Eastern cooking, a lot of Asian cooking, South American, Mexico. I mean, everybody uses cilantro really except us. And there's that thought that some people do not like cilantro because and that is due to there being a code in their DNA that actually makes them like it or not like it. And if they don't like it, if they have that code, cilantro tastes like soap. So I kind of get it. It's got a soapiness to it. So I'm going to take some cilantro, and the way that I deal with it, I wash it always. I wrap it in a paper towel, and I do that with most herbs. I wash them, I wrap them in a paper towel, and then what I do is I just kind of cut what I think I need. Okay, because cilantro is not like it's not like parsley. Parsley stems are thick. They're pretty thick, and I think I had one laying around somewhere. I wanted to show you guys. But you guys use parsley, and typically if I use parsley, I use a flat leaf parsley. I do not use curly parsley on the majority of the time, because I like the flavor of flat leaf better. Just has a better green kind of flavor. Curly parsley, I don't like that. It has those sharp edges on it, and I'm just not a fan. So, but I use it when I make tabbouleh or things like that. So I do use it at some point. But if you look at the stem of a parsley, it's pretty thick. So if you use the stem on a parsley, I usually pull the leaves off. So I just kind of pull them opposite the way they grow on the stem. And that's what I do with parsley. But with cilantro, because the stems are very tender, I mean, you see the difference. This is parsley and that's cilantro. And if you see the difference in it, cilantro is very, very tender. So I don't bother pulling the leaves off of them. I just take the whole thing and I chop it up just like this. Okay, if you're not a fan of cilantro, don't use it. You know what I mean? You don't have to use what you don't like. But I like it. I think it always kind of gives it that nice kind of, fresh taste. That I kind of think cilantro has a freshness to it. So we're going to put this in my bowl. And then what I have here is my lentils. And what I did earlier, because it takes a good half hour or so to cook lentils, I have some green lentils here that I'm using. And these are just, I like, my favorite lentils are black lentils. So if you can find black lentils, so sometimes they're called beluga lentils. Sometimes they're called puy lentils, P-U-Y. But I don't mind the green lentils. And what I do is I just bring a pot of water to a boil. A small pot is only about a cup of lentils. So I bring a small pot of water to a boil, put in a bay leaf, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and then I boil them until the lentils are done. So about 20 minutes. And then I just, you just check the lentils. You want them to be able to squish in your finger. You don't want them to be, hard. You're not going to eat hard lentils, okay? And then so when I'm ready to use them, I drain them. And then, if it's a salad, I will rinse them with, cold water in the colander. So now I'm just going to dump them into my bowl here. I'm going to remove that bay leaf. You don't want that bay leaf in there. Bay leaf is an herb as well. Bay leaf is one of those herbs that's used quite often by Eastern European cuisines. And, people say, do you really need I've heard so many people ask me, do you really need a bay leaf? And I really think you do. I think bay leaves kind of give you almost a muskiness. I don't know what it is. It's an earthiness. And I just think they're really important in cooking. So, if you don't want to use them, you certainly don't have to. But I find that they're really a nice addition. I've got some arugula here. And arugula is also an herb. Arugula is a kind of peppery green. So I'm going to throw some arugula in my salad. All right. So arugula looks like this. You can substitute it with some watercress if you can't find arugula. Some people find watercress in the grocery stores more, but arugula now, they're packaging it up and they're selling it. It's great if you have a salad and you want to, just add a little bit of, like a spring mix salad that you get from like one of the box stores or something. And then you want to add just a little bit of pepperiness to it. Arugula is great. So you don't have to make a whole salad out of it, but it really tastes good when you add a little bit. All right, I am going to take a little bit of red wine vinegar. Okay, and we're going to add a little bit of red wine vinegar to my little dressing mixture that we made. Okay, just a little bit. And we're going to mix that in. All right, so this is my oil with my shallots and all of my herbs in here. We're going to pour that all on top, just like this. And what I'm going to do is I am going to season with a little salt and a little bit of pepper, black pepper. All right, just a little bit. And then we'll toss this, okay? So I would eat this salad right away because for me, that warm dressing kind of makes the flavors come out and it just really tastes good. But there is my salad, guys. I hope you can see that. I haven't finished tossing it, but I didn't make a lot because it's only my son-in-law and myself at home, and I didn't want to, have a lot of food left over. So I'm just making a little bit to show you guys, okay? And this salad will hold up if you do it for a picnic. Make the whole thing, add your arugula at the last minute, take it with you to a picnic if you want to. It's a great picnic salad. It will last, it's a vinaigrette, so it'll last, quite a while as you're, having fun outside. You don't have to worry about it too much, okay? So I'm going to put this aside and we'll come back to it at the end. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to show you guys our fresh herb sauce for our cod. And I'm going to make this in my little mini food processor. Just an easy way to do it. And, works really, really well. If you have a food processor at home, do it in that. If you have a blender, do it in your blender. That works too. So you have a lot of options as far as how you want to, get this processed. And it works because I want to turn this into a sauce. I want to make this into a sauce that I can actually pour, okay? So I am going to take, at this point, I have some, I've got my herbs here. I have some flat leaf parsley, and I also have some dill, okay? So we're going to throw that in my little mini food processor. Now, dill is one of my absolute favorite herbs. Very popular in Eastern European cuisine. I'm Polish, so my mother used a lot of dill, and she would grow it in the backyard, and she would grow so much of it. And one of the things we always did was we would always freeze it. She would pick it, and she grew so much of it, and it would go to seed, and then all the seeds would fly around, and she'd get little seeds in the cracks in our driveway. And we would, as kids, my mother would say, "Don't step on the dill in the driveway." And I'm going, "Oh my gosh, you got so much dill. The ones in the driveway are really not going to matter." But I got it. I mean, but dill is one of my favorite herbs. It's, kind of tender, but it's beautiful. This is just a really kind of slight sprig of it. I think I have another one here somewhere. And this is one herb that, you can use the top part of the stem because that's kind of tender. But as you get down to the bottom, that's kind of chewy. So I don't really use that part of it too much. I kind of, what I'll do is I will just pull those little fronds off. And it's a tender herb. It's, easy to grow, but it doesn't do well in a pot. I don't know why. I've tried, but it doesn't do well in a pot. If you have too much dill, and I know when you go to the grocery store, sometimes you go to the grocery store and you come home with a bouquet of dill, literally a bridal bouquet of dill. It's so much of it. What are you supposed to do with it? You only need a little bit. Well, I take it and I actually put it in, I wash it, dry it, put it in, paper towel, roll it in paper towel. And then what I'll do is I'll put it in either saran wrap or I'll put it in a Ziploc bag and then just throw it in my freezer. When I need it, I pull it out. I don't thaw it, anything. I just break it. It breaks right in half. And then you can use it just like you would use fresh dill. And the thing about any herb that you're going to freeze, it's going to change color. It kind of wilts when it thaws, So if I took that dill, I could make this sauce with the dill because I'm changing it. I'm going to puree it. If I wanted to take it and throw it in that salad, it wouldn't work so well because you need something fresh when you're doing it in the salad. But if I'm doing it in a sauce or I'm throwing it in a soup or a stew or something like that, it works beautifully because, it'll kind of wilt and disappear anyway. So I don't really care that it's kind of wilted when you take it out of the freezer. I really find that frozen herbs a lot of times taste a lot better than the dried ones do. So when I was a novice cook and just starting my herb garden outside, I would always dry my herbs. I would pick them in the fall. I would dry them. Boy, what a process it was. and it was just a lot of work. And then I realized that I didn't use them so much. So I took them at that point and I started freezing them instead. And it worked so much better to freeze them. So anyway, let's put a few other ingredients in here. I have some shallots, and this is just a chopped shallot. I don't need all of this, so we'll put half of that in. All right, and I have some garlic, and we're going to throw some garlic in here. And I've chopped the garlic, so that is totally chopped garlic. I'm going to throw in some capers. Capers kind of go really well with fish. They have that brininess, that, you know, kind of, I don't know, that's a little bit of a sourness that I really, really like. I'm going to throw in a zest of a lemon. Got my lemon right here. And I'm going to zest that lemon right on top of my bowl. Again, the same thing. You know, lemons go really well with herbs too. So if you're doing, you know, cooking with herbs, lemons go really well with it because it lends to that freshness, that fresh appeal, which is really nice. So again, once or twice across the microplane, and then move your lemon. Always move it. All right, don't let it get too, you know, too much on the white pith, because otherwise it kind of tastes a little bit bitter. All right. So that's not always pleasant. I am going to just take that lemon that I had earlier. I'm going to pull out some of those seeds. And although I'm doing this in the little grinder here, it's not going to be such a big deal. So if I get a seed in here, it'll grind it up for me. So I should be okay with that. All right. So I am going to now process this. All right, so and I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil to this. Got some of that stuck on my thing, my little blade. I'm going to throw in some olive oil, and that will help it to kind of process a little more and kind of make it more saucy. All right, if you don't want olive oil, you can use vegetable oil. Vegetable oil is fine. Okay, I'm going to push this down so that it doesn't get. And then what we're going to do is we are going to add a little bit. I'm going to add a little more oil. I don't measure things as much, so I kind of eyeball it. You know, it's just kind of what I do, guys. But if you measure it, you'll put the right amount in. You should be good. Put a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. This is, you know, after all, a sauce, so you want to make sure that you get it the right, you know, right flavoring. Okay. There we go. I love this little processor, but sometimes it doesn't do as good of a job as the bigger one does, guys. But my big one is a really big one, so I kind of hesitate to pull that out sometimes when I'm doing small amounts. So I have my, I'm going to throw this into a bowl at this point. All right. I have a nice sauce. Actually, I think I'm going to just add a little tiny bit more olive oil because it's not saucy enough for me. I want it to be, like I said, I want it to be saucy. I want it, you know, to be able to kind of drizzle it if I can. There we go. All right. We're done. We're done with that. All right. So now I can pour this into my bowl. I'm going to get rid of that blade so it doesn't fall. And then we'll pour that into my bowl, okay? And then I'm going to make some cod for you today. But, I mean, you can really do any kind of fish you want. You can do chicken breast. You can use this on pork. If you have a pork tenderloin, you can certainly use this on pork. This would even be really, really nice, to be honest with you, on a steak. So if you're doing a steak, you know, throw that on a steak as well, because I don't know if any of you have ever heard of chimichurri sauce. Chimichurri is a South American sauce made out of parsley, and it is like kind of similar to what we just did, a lot of olive oil and so forth, but it's really, really delicious, and it's typically served in Argentina on steak. So I'm going to get my pan nice and hot. Okay, and so I want to get that, get that going. I have some beautiful cod loins here, and the cod loins, it just means that it's the kind of the upper part of the cod, and you can see that I've got it on paper towel. All right. The reason being, if the fish is really wet, and this was fresh, I don't know if it had been previously frozen or not, but it was really a nice fish, and but it's still wet, whether you buy it frozen or you buy it in the fish case. So I like to take it and put it on paper towel so that it will dry up a little bit, because if you try to saute wet fish, you're going to get it to steam and it's not going to really saute. All right. So I've got 3 beautiful pieces here. And I'm going to take a little bit of salt. All right, we're going to add a little salt to this. And a little bit of pepper. All right, just to cover. All right, make sure you season well, guys. Seasoning is so important in cooking. I've got a little bit of paprika. All right, just a little bit. And that is going to go right on top. Now I want to flip this. And you want to do the other side. It's so important to do both sides, okay? And I know everybody goes, oh, you know what? It's just, the other side, it's fine. No, you got to season both sides. Don't be lazy. You really got to do it. It's because otherwise it is, your food is not going to be as good. I can vouch for that. I know a lot of times, boy, do I want to be lazy when I cook, but honestly, and then I cannot forgive myself because then it doesn't taste good. And then I think, okay, I should have spent a little more time, fixing it up or getting it prepped, but that's kind of part of cooking. That's the part that I really love, is the prep work in cooking. So, all right, so I am getting my pan nice and hot. We're going to add some olive oil to the pan. I got a little bit left in this bottle. And I have another bottle here. Don't look at my sorry rosemary plant. This looks really sorry. Really sad. I'm going to get enough oil in here that this is going to kind of, enable the fish to almost float on the surface, okay? If you don't put enough oil in the pan, you're not going to get a nice saute. You're not going to get a nice browning on your fish, all right? So make sure that you put enough in the pan. And I'm going to sneeze from the pepper. Oh, sorry, guys. Oh, my gosh. I want to wait till that oil gets hot before I actually add my fish. Because if you're doing this in a stainless steel pan and you add your fish to the pan before the oil is hot enough, it's going to stick on you, so make sure that it is hot enough. I want to hear that sizzle. I always want to hear that sizzle. So I'm putting the fish in here, beautiful pieces of fish. I'm going to rinse this off really quick, because we can take this out and put it on this pan once we're done with it. If we have any questions, you want to type them in the chat, Denise, or okay. You can yes, there was a question about the salad. Thank you. Yeah, I just have to get my eyes focused. Can I substitute a different kind of nut? Absolutely. Pistachios work really well in that. Walnuts work really well. I like walnuts in a lentil salad. It kind of has a little bit of bitterness, so they really taste good in a lentil salad. So you can definitely do any nut you want. I mean, honestly, guys, pecans, almonds, sliced almonds work really well. Really anything works really well. But always toast them if you can too, and especially if it's a salad. All right, so I am going to let that saute for a minute. These are kind of thicker pieces of fish, so I want to make sure that I get this well cooked. You want to make sure that your fish comes out at about 160 degrees, 65 when, if you put a thermometer in it. If you're not real familiar with cooking fish, use the thermometer, because that's going to tell you how to, what the temperature is, and that'll be a kind of a foolproof way to let you know if that's done. So let's plate our salad first. I want to plate the salad, show you guys what that's looking like, okay? So gosh, I just love this salad. You could do other things in here too. I kind of like the way it is just like this, but you could absolutely put, it's just beautiful with that arugula that just looks so kind of fancy. Um, and honestly, guys, if you wanted to, you could throw the fish right on top. So this would be a really nice salad to just add some fish to it and, you know, let that kind of be served as a whole full meal or on the side, whatever you wanted to do. Okay. So there is my salad. My fish is cooking nicely. I'm going to flip it over at this point. You want to make sure that you cook it all the way through, guys. And I know this is a little bit of a bigger piece of fish, so we're gonna let it cook. Let me know, Denise, if there's another question that pops up, and I can check the chat. All right. So, and I've got my heat on pretty high, guys. I'm sautéing. In French, the verb sauté, sauter, means to jump. So when I get the heat really hot and I get the oil really hot in my pan, my food is literally almost like jiggling in my pan. That's how hot it is. And you know, you can kind of see the oil as it cooks. I'm going to show you what the fish looks like at this point. So that's my beautiful fish cooking. Again, if you wanted to do chicken breast, absolutely would work beautifully with this. I try to eat fish whenever I can. I love fish. My son-in-law is not a big fish eater, but oh well. You know, it's all the way. That's the way it is. He likes chicken, but I don't know. I'm lately I have not been so much of a chicken eater. So for me, I'd rather have fish. So that's why we're doing the fish tonight. So sorry, guys. That's, you know, personal preference, I guess, right? Is there a question? Other favorite ways to use herbs? You know, I use them in all, and to be honest with you guys, I use fresh herbs more so than I use dried. I use spices that are dried, but typically, if I'm going to be doing something with herbs, they're going to be fresh. Um, I love I love making pestos with herbs, and one of my in the summer especially because summer is a great time to be making pestos. One of my, you know, what is the traditional pesto? It's basically basil, pine nuts, and garlic, right? And oil. And so that is a traditional pesto. I say, to heck with it. Use any kind of herb you want. I mean, one of my favorites is arugula. Arugula cut with a little bit of maybe parsley because it can be pretty strong when it's that peppery. But I do arugula with a little bit of parsley. Oh my God, it is delicious. I'll put maybe walnuts in there, or I'll put. I've done like a oh I've done I add a lot of different herbs to pestos. Whatever I have in the fridge. If I make, I'll usually maybe start with some parsley because it's kind of a neutral, you know, herb. Kind of goes with everything. I am going to pull some of my fish off because it's getting done. I want to just make sure it's 100% done. All right, we're going to flip it one more time. And this really big piece, I think, is going to take just a few more minutes. But that's okay. You know, I don't have to use that one. But I start with parsley, and then if I have tarragon sitting in my fridge, I'll throw a little bit of tarragon in there, a little bit of thyme, cilantro. Honestly, whatever you have, just throw it in there. Another great use for herbs is salsa. When you're making a salsa, you don't have to just do a tomatoey salsa with some cilantro. Do a salsa with maybe add some basil to it, you know, and serve it over a caprese. You know, add a little tomato and make it like a caprese salad or something. It's delicious. There's so many, you know, so many good ways to use herbs. I throw a lot of them in my soups, a lot of them in stews. I grow, I moved recently, so I actually have to regrow. I have an herb that I used to grow all the time. It was called lavage, Lovage. And I loved lavage so much. It was such a good herb. It kind of looks like celery leaves. It grows really, really tall. It'll get really, really high. And it's just a delicious, delicious herb. Very celery-like. And I throw herbs in a fresh salad. So if I'm doing a lettuce salad with spring mix, I'll just rip up some herbs and I'll just throw handfuls in it and mix it together. I mean, there's nobody says you can't do that. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean it, and you don't always have to have a recipe for something. If you know, if you've got those herbs laying around, just use them. Throw them in there. You know what I mean? It works beautifully. Um, the lavage, I put it in soups. I put it in salads. I do it all kinds of different ways. I love it because it has that celery flavor. You know, it's kind of a different herb. You know, the other thing about herbs that just kind of occurred to me, everybody used to garnish their dishes with parsley, right? Every restaurant, you find a little bit of parsley next to your main course or next to your steak or whatever. Honestly, guys, you know, I never garnish anything. I'm going to put just a little bit of this salad next to it just to kind of show you. So pretty. And you know, I don't put garnish on anything that isn't edible. Number one. Number two, I never garnish something that that it doesn't have in the dish itself. So if I'm making a dish and there's no parsley in it, I don't put parsley on the plate. I mean, it's just kind of weird. You know what I mean? Why throw that sprig on there? It looks pretty, yeah, but you know what? I just think it's, you know, kind of funny to use that for no reason. I am going to look for a spoon, and I got one right here, and we're going to put some of this sauce right on top of my cod, right in the middle, kind of right in the, you know, right down the middle here. I got one little piece here. We're going to garnish that too. And that is my fresh fish with a herb sauce. And honestly, guys, again, don't be limited to fish. You know, do some, you know, you can definitely do some, you know, chicken or honestly, this sauce would be really fantastic on a steak. You'd be really surprised because meat can stand up to those flavors, you know, to those herby flavors. And so I would definitely try that as well. So here are my two dishes. And, you know, again, like, I mean, you could serve the fish on top of the salad. I just thought it would be pretty to put both separate, but now that I'm thinking about it, I would definitely throw it on top of the salad. I think it would be a great luncheon kind of, you know, plate. Not hard to do either, guys. You know, so yeah. Any questions? Any questions, anyone? I hope I've covered everything that I wanted to cover and maybe that you've wanted me to cover. You know, preserving herbs, I freeze mine. I don't bother drying them. And I freeze all herbs. Basil, I freeze dill, you know, a lot. I freeze cilantro. I freeze, you know, again, it's not gonna be pretty when it comes out. It's not gonna be like it's fresh, but it's still going to, you know, give you a lot more flavor than if you were going to use dried herbs, I feel. So I'm more of a stickler for using fresh than dried for a lot of things. What temp do you cook the fish to? I cook it to about 100 and let's see what the temperature is on that. I cook it to I believe it's 165 for fish. I may be wrong because I never take the temperature, guys. Let me show you a little trick too while we're at it. It's about 170, 165, 170. But I'm going to show you just a really quick little trick while I'm thinking about it. So when I take some fish and I'm cooking it for people, okay, one of the things I absolutely hate is when people check the fish by digging into it. You know, you can take your knife and make a little slit in there. The fish isn't going to look real pretty. I mean, you're going to have a hole in there, right? So what I do is I take my spatula or a knife and I just carefully lift the fish. This is cod and it's real flaky. So I can kind of see between the flakes. If I see that and I can feel that they're completely firm, they're opaque, they're not clear anymore, I know that fish is done. Okay. And that's one of the when I'm doing like a fillet of salmon and I cook the whole thing, I could take something. It really bothers me when somebody takes their knife and starts to like look inside of there. Oh my gosh, then you eat that piece. Don't give it to somebody else. But I like to just take it and just gently lift it. Especially fish works so beautifully because it flakes so nicely. And then when you lift it, you can see the inside of the fish, and then you can tell whether it's done or not. So that's how I like to check the temperature. But it's typically to about 170, 165, something like that. You know, you want to make sure that it's completely done in the middle. Of course, if I was making You could do whitefish with this. You could do walleye. I know people are out there fishing and getting those things. So you could do those. If I was going to do that, you know, whitefish is much more thinner. It's a thinner fish. Not gonna take as much time as this did to cook. So make sure that you realize that when you're cooking a thinner fillet of fish, that you want to cook it less time. You know, we want to just till it's done, guys. And if your fish has skin on it, you want to cook skin side down first, because it will, otherwise it will curl on you if you do it the opposite way. It will kind of buckle on you, and it's going to be, you know, you're going to really hate yourself for doing it the other way, because it just looks funny. I mean, you're not going to have a different flavor, but it just, you know, sometimes aesthetics mean a lot too.
Well,
I don't know what's
everyone
going on.
likes the class.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Denise. Thank you for everyone for, you know, joining us tonight. So
Yep.
yeah,